I have a 2009 Chevy Avalanche automatic transmission two-wheel drive. And recently the bushing, not this one, but the bushing that is on the the lower shift cable lever disintegrated, from the auto transmission lever, I guess what they call a lever, according to this. It says lever A hyphen or slash transmission. Anyway, I had gone to first I went to Advanced Auto, Autozone, O'Reilly's, Napa, and do not get this part for the Chevy Avalanche. Even though it says GM on here, right there, which gives you two of these bushings right here, this does not fit the OD of this step down on here. I've ground down in order to try to make it fit, so you probably can't see it. But there was a step between this washer right here. There's a step down there. That is 0.51. The ID of the shift cable is 0.41. Any brilliant person, any dumb person should know that 0.51 is not the same thing as 0.41. So I ground this thing down with a Dremel tool, with my bench grinder, and so on to try to fit this to fit. And it worked once, and then it came off the transmission. So GM, if you go to them, they want to sell you the upper and lower cable for about $80 plus, depending on which GM dealership you go to. This is not the fix. This part number is a different number for Napa and so on. I've got those stored. But this from Dorman 14057 saying that's for Ford and GM does not work on the Chevy Avalanche. Comes with 4 pieces in here. 2 in the red or the orange are supposed to be for Ford. 2 clear are for the GM transmission, not the Chevy Avalanche. So what I tried to do or decided to do is something different. This is the original lever. And if you see on here, this slot right here that anchors to the side of the transmission is parallel with the pin, right in line with the pin. I went to a GM dealer actually a Chevy dealer in Morristown, Tennessee, and I told him I had a 2009 Chevy. He gave me this part right here. Well, actually, part number 1525185. But you'll notice that this slot is at about a 10-degree angle to this hole, not parallel with this, if you'll see this. There's a big difference. And what that means is, sure, I was able to put it on, but the cable, like the lower cable, I could not engage with the pin that was on here. You notice this one's ground off because what I opted to do is to grind this off and put a shoulder bolt. For the parts that are on here, you'll see this list right here. Shoulder bolt, it's a 5/16 by 3/4 inch long shoulder bolt. Probably overkill, but I decided to use 2 stainless steel 5/16 washers, 2 nylon washers, and then in between here, and it's mounted to the cable inside my truck right now, is a nylon spacer to fill this gap. So I ended up grinding this off, drilled, and this is hardened. The rivet is steel, so that comes out okay. I had to use a file from my, if I can see it here, somewhere in here. This is from my steel chainsaw chain. But I was able to file this out enough so that I could run a 1/4-20 tap through this to anchor the shoulder bolt. It would have worked if it hadn't been for this notch. So I went back to Reader Chevrolet, great guy there, Steve is his name, and I told him the problem, and he said, well, that's not the right part, meaning this one. And I said, well, yeah, it came in the other day, but I had given him this part number. This is what he gave me. I can't fault Steve for that. This is the correct part. Steve, or Reader Chevrolet, was out of it, but the one up the street from me, West Chevrolet, had 2 of these in stock. These are about $5.50 a piece if you get it wholesale. This was at O'Reilly, Advanced Auto. They sell one, and it is an anodized gold color. They want $9.99 for this bracket. It does not work on the Avalanche. I'm going to repeat, it does not. This part number, which is different than GM number, but their part number does not fit accurately on the Chevy Avalanche, at least not the 2009. This is the one that does. So I bought 2 of these, and I figure about $5.50 a piece, plus these parts, which came to about $5.30. I'm going to have $11.30 into this fix for the transmission that I can repair down the road again. This part costs $14.99. With a veteran's discount, I got it under $14 with tax and so on. But it doesn't work. Don't waste your time. I'm telling you, don't waste your time. I'm about to, since I picked up these yesterday, today is Sunday, July 18th, 2021. I am about to grind off this. This is my original one. I'm keeping this. I ended up buying 2 of these just for grands in case down the road I want to modify another one. Or if I lose one, if one falls off, or whatever the reason. I've got 2 good working parts. One I'm going to be modifying by grinding off this tab that you'll see on here, this tab, that ear that the bushing normally would fit on. And granted, it does. It slides right over there, but it will not engage in the lower transmission cable hole. So what I ended up doing is I had already figured if I scrap this and this doesn't work, I'm going to end up buying the lower cable and the upper cable probably anyway. But what I did was I drilled out, which is plastic, I drilled out the lower cable hole, the ID in the lower cable that fits over this bushing, so that it will fit the nylon spacer. And when I get done, I will show a picture of this to see what will happen. But like I said, the problem when I connected this, my fix worked great until I tried to shift. And this would not allow me to shift down into the M portion of the shifting pattern, which means you can't go into low, like 1 through 5. I could go into drive, park, neutral, reverse, but I couldn't shift it down, and it's all because of this notch. I do believe, I'm almost 110% sure, but I'm going to find out when I modify this. This fix, this, trying to get this to work, literally, this is not a 5-minute job that I did here, literally, folks. I've got tools, grinder, bench grinder, wrenches and everything else. I've literally spent over 4 hours, better yet 6 hours trying to come up with a fix for this, short, just for the principle of the thing, because it should be something much easier than replacing 2 cables at $80 or labor to somebody or tearing into it when all you got is a bushing. I can't believe that auto manufacturers are this freaking cheap where they are going to do this and then not offer a fix. GM, believe it or not, wanted $32 for a bushing. $32 freaking dollars for a 2-cent part. This is GM raping it to the public. Seriously, this is just wrong. So this shoulder bolt fix plus a bracket, if it comes up with $11.30, will be a permanent fix to my transmission, and I hope it would help other people. Use transmission lever 159,15999 from GM. Talk them into giving you a wholesale price. It's about $6. First step, grind off the tab. Fortunately, I've got a 4-inch and older. It's been a workhorse grinder, cut-off grinder. Grind off that tab, flush, and then with a punch out the rivets. A lot easier than trying to drill it out. Next step is, because this is hardened, you have to increase this to a size just a scant under tapping for a 1/4 20 thread. And if you don't have a torch like I don't have, a propane possibly might do it, a little propane torch. You need to heat this up if you want to drill and tap through this. It is hardened on this end, so that's why I'm saying you need to increase this just enough so that you can get a 1/4 20 tap through here, which is this right there. That's why I ended up filing a little bit to oversize the hole, because my drill bits would not go through that. I don't believe it's stainless, but anyway, I was unsuccessful, so that's why I ground it down. I will repeat that this is hardened metal. In order to get the 1/4 20 tap through here, I had to use the file after using a 7/32 drill bit. I believe it was 7/32, to get close to the hole size that you need to tap a 1/4 20, but it's because it's hardened, I can't tap it. So you have to break through that. That's why using the round file to increase the size of it. Now, I can get the tap through here right now, just like I had done before. It will anchor just fine, but just be aware that this is extremely tough to drill and tap through. Helps if you have a vise. If you don't have one at home, don't have a friend, this might be a little bit difficult for you. But otherwise, if you got the tools at home, you can do this. This is what the finished product will look like, this bracket. What's missing in the center here is the bushing that's already in the cable. I put the nylon spacer in there, and that will fit between these two nylon washers. And because I had drilled the cable out in order to try to fit the bushing from Dorman, which is a piece of POS, um, these nylons, the OD of the nylon is slightly bigger than the OD of the nylon spacer in between here. So it fits nicely in between here and the cable doesn't shift left or right. I'm going to go and assemble this and see what happens. Just another food for thought. I ran the quarter 20 bolt with the threads that extended out beyond here, and I ground off. I had a different nut, and I ground it a little bit more flush to the outside edge of this nut. Just be forewarned, because of where the stud, whatever you want to call it, that projects out from the transmission, this side, the original part, if you'll notice on here, this is the original piece. The back side is a rivet that's pinned in there. You see how far out that projects. Not even a 16th of an inch, maybe a 32nd of an inch. So this nut projecting out from that edge, I don't feel confident enough in the threads on this because it's hardened steel. And although I was able to tap it, I don't want it to come off. So I put a nut on the back side and ground off one or two threads of the stud that was for the shoulder bolt. And I may very well have to peen this edge outward, outboard. That way, in order for this nut to clear the transmission case, I think it was the transmission, it's not the engine, but the case, the drain pan or whatever that you want to call it, the pan that covers the transmission at the bottom, the way this projects out and swings back and forth for shifting through the gears, this may or may not be a problem. I'll see once I put this bracket on. I just finished installing my shoulder bolt fix, and as you can, it has more than adequate clearance. I did have to put the link or plate, the transmission, whatever the heck the thing is, this little part here. I did have to put it in the vise and bend it out slightly because this nut that I put on here would interfere here. It had clearance, but like a 64th of an inch clearance, and in case you're driving down the road, I didn't want it to interfere. So I actually took it to the vise and I bent it outwards a little bit. More than adequate clearance now to shift through the gears. Again, this is a 5/16 by 3/4 inch long shoulder bolt. It's got a quarter 20 thread on it. I bought a link for just over $5 from GM. I think it was 10 something for both the pair because I decided to get one just in case down the road. So I have two good working plates, bars. One has been modified now. Actually, no, this is my original one, I believe it was. Oh, either way, I modified that and tapped through this hardened piece of steel using a 7/32 drill bit first for some clearance. I had to burn my way through because it is hardened steel and I didn't have any other tools to do it with. So I forced it, but then I used a 5/16 or 5/32, I'm not sure, file from my chainsaw to enlarge the hole a little bit so that I could put the quarter 20 tap through here. And so I've got the shoulder bolt, stainless steel washer, nylon washer to fit the 5/16 bolt, and then a spacer that's 5/16 ID by, I believe it was 7/16 OD. So I did have to drill this part of the lower cable. It's plastic on the inside anyway, so I drilled that out. Had done so anyway to use the previous bushing from Dorman, which didn't work. So I'm confident that this is going to last indefinitely. So then there's another nylon washer and then a stainless steel washer before the plate. Tighten it down with, I believe it was a 1/8 or maybe 3/16 Allen wrench. And then secured a nut on the back side just in case for the threads. And that is the fix. This is about $11.50. If I knew all this to begin with, I could have had this fixed in about 20 minutes to 30 minutes. Instead, I've spent basically way too long and sort of embarrassed to say, with all the attempts I made, running back and forth to a couple stores, buying a dormant part that didn't work, that failed. I'm happy about the Chevy dealer in Morristown giving me the wrong part number, so I wasted time. But I've easily got 6 hours wrapped up into what should have been a 5-minute fix by Chevy or any other
dealership, or not dealership, but manufacturer, for such a poor idea by engineering to under-engineer this by just putting a bushing in here that you can't get, that you have to work on, that might fail, and instead of having to replace these two cables, which I just couldn't see doing, I wanted to come up with a different fix. A little lengthy in my description, but by any stretch of the imagination, I know what I did here. I could do this for somebody else, far less time.